Hello.
Hello.
So I'm recording.
There we go. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. All ready
Nice.
for the nice talk we're going to have today.
Yeah.
Subject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked you to do this interview with me was because I wanted to share experiences that we've had, and we're going to focus on yours anyway. But I wanted to share experiences that we've had going through the the witness ordeal, Jehovah's Witness ordeal.
Yes. Yes.
Um, there's a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, people that are curious about witnesses or whatever, that maybe want to know what it's about, or people
Mm,
that are interested in maybe talking to them or whatever. The point of this is just for people to see that there's a whole other side
mm.
after Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah.
and also there's ways to heal the damage that they've done.
Yeah. That's
And
it.
I wanted to do this because you have your experience, but I'm going to let you tell me your experience, and I will question if you're okay with that, because obviously I'm curious. I'm a curious person, so I like to question people and go into gritty stuff, and understand how the whole mechanics of things work, because there's definitely a confusion as to religion
Mm.
and spirituality.
Yes.
I feel that that's where a lot of people are stuck, because they view spirituality as just another religion.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's not. It's not just another religion, because it's something we are born with. Now, it's different to a religion, absolutely. But I think if we talk about experiences, people can see how it shaped us,
Mm.
and
Mm.
then think about it for themselves and how it affected them. And it would be nice if we have ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that see this to get in contact so we can interview them as well and see how they came through it, or maybe what they're still struggling with, and maybe see if we can help them, or maybe they can help us, because it's not something that leaves you.
Shared experiences.
It
Absolutely.
It's
Impact you
something you have
life.
to work with, and you have to work through it. And the more you work through it, the less of an issue it becomes. So you heal. It's like a wound getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
So um, please tell us, um, firstly, where did it start with the witnesses for you guys?
Well, I wasn't born into Jehovah's Witnesses. I can remember the very first impact that it had on my life. I was probably about 7, maybe 8, and I can remember my mother and my stepfather coming in to tell me they had been having these meetings with the lady who was very nice and sweet. I liked this lady, but I could tell this was becoming a regular thing. And then one day they came into my bedroom and they sat me down, and it was absolutely mortifying. They had told me, they took away all my fairy tale books and told me I wasn't allowed to believe in fairies anymore, took away all my childhood stories, and I was mortified. I didn't quite know how or what, and I wasn't allowed to believe in birthdays or anything anymore. So that was a very big shift and a change for me at 7. So that's how we started. And then we carried on through. My stepfather started sexually abusing me at a very, very, very young age. And the abuse obviously had already started by the time we became witnesses. So this was kind of the central thing to the witness experience for me as a child, was the sexual abuse. As you know, growing up with Jehovah's Witnesses, it's very rigid, it's very strict, it's very disciplined, and the man is the head of the home, and that's just how it is. You don't question anything, you just obey. That's how it works. And
Yeah, that.
that's exactly how it is. So that's kind of how our family dynamic was. um it was very kind of rigid. My mum was always, I don't think my mum ever conformed properly. My mum was always kind of very open. She never rebelled against the witnesses. She was very much in line with the man's the head of the home. But I could tell there was something different with my mum. With my stepfather, obviously, it was very much just about the abuse. So this is how it was throughout my whole life. Even going into meetings and things, we used to have to go to meetings 3 times a week, church, whatever you want to call them. And I could remember sitting there as a young, very young child, and just kind of zoning out and switching off and zoning out. And the only thing that ever really grabbed me, there were only ever 2 or 3 themes throughout my childhood witness experience that grabbed me very strongly. And one of them was, I can remember watching a film in one of the meetings. It might have been called Purple Hearts or something, I can't remember, where it was the witnesses experience.
Purple Triangle.
Purple Triangle, that was it, yes.
Because it was through the Holocaust.
Yes, the witnesses experience during the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And to me, this was absolutely gripping. All through my life, the Holocaust has been a gripping theme for me, and now we know why, obviously.
And they played it well, didn't they? They used it and I feel sorry for them suffering, but they built a lot of their belief around those things.
Absolutely. I think for me, the thing that was driven with that film and everything as such a young child was probably the thing that tugged more on my humanitarian strings, where they were saying, well, we'll go to prison, we're not fighting, we're just refusing to fight. And yes, now I understand we need to fight for our freedom, we need to fight for what's going on. But
I weren't the only ones.
Oh no, of course not. Of course not.
They never talk about that though.
No, of course not. Of course not. But on the flip side of it, I kind of imparted that onto like the soldiers and things. And I'm thinking, well, why don't you just say no? You know, I like that principle that the witness thing was teaching about. No, I'm not doing it. I will not perpetuate violence, you know. So that part of it. But that was only one of very few things that highlighted. But I think one of the key things, the other thing was the birthday thing. Now, I can even remember doing a little talk at school. My teacher had asked me to stand up and explain to me a little bit about being a Jehovah's Witness. And one of the main things was birthdays. And I was so convicted in why we didn't celebrate birthdays. And that was because no one person is better than the other. And as you know, that's a theme throughout the witness thing. We are not allowed to glorify ourselves in any way.
You can't be an individual.
You cannot be exactly.
That's what it is.
Individual. You are not allowed to embrace any kind of personal power, any kind of personal recognition. You belong to the fold, and you do as you're told.
You're just one of them. You disappear in the background, like those walls without the windows. You disappear into, that's all you are. You are just a follower.
That's it. You are part of the brotherhood. You're part of the mechanics, and that's it. Absolutely. So to me, for my little brain to make sense of that when I was so young about not celebrating birthdays, I was truly convicted, and it was truly driven into me. We are not allowed to be better than anybody else, which is why we don't celebrate birthdays. And moving on through my life, this has impacted me so much, just that one thing. And in fact, it was only after, it was very recently, probably about a year ago, when I first had a reading with you, that I understood. You highlighted for me, and thank goodness you and I have had very similar experiences, because you could understand from that point of view. And it highlighted for me how, not that I'm not confident in what I do, but it holds me back. It holds my growth as within mediumship, psychic, my reading.
Yeah.
It holds me back because there's still that little bit of conditioning at the back of my head that says you are not allowed to be great at this. You know, if you doing this for people, it's almost as though you're more powerful than people. And that's that little voice. And it's not the case at all. I mean, I know it.
Not at all.
You know, I know I do this for healing. I know why I'm doing this, but there's almost like this little headmaster's head at the back of your head going, no, not allowed, you know. So that conditioning really does impact you right through into your adult life. And you've helped me realize that and start breaking that down now, where I feel justified in embracing some kind of personal power because I know what it's being used for. It's not for my own personal gain.
No, but it's also for your survival.
Absolutely.
You would not have survived without it. And I would not have. I would be dead. 100%. As I'm sitting here today, I would be dead. Because that is what's, what messes with all of it, right?
Yeah.
You can't do what you instinctively should do. So you do what they want you to do, someone else. And when you have to survive, you can only work with your authentic self. That's all you have. So you have to use your skills and you have to work with what you have to make something of yourself to survive.
Yes.
So they not just damage people in what they would control thing, they damage their way of thinking and how they survive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is what you were saying, the difference between spirituality and religion. With the spirituality, there are no rules, there are no structures. It's what resonates when you allow yourself to just experience.
Yeah. Well, there are laws, but it's a law that you feel. Because if you don't feel it, you don't know it. This is why you get people that will cross the line because they're not aware that they're crossing the line. So they have to be shown, not in a punishing way, in a loving, kind way. They need to feel the pain that they've caused by their action. And that's how you heal, because you show them the pain they caused. They feel it themselves by feeling the person that they've hurt. And that's how they heal and realize that, okay, that action is wrong. And that's the law. I can't do this because look what it feels like. You don't need someone to tell you, oh, this is a law. And you're like, but this law doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. This is the law.
Yeah. Doesn't resonate.
That's the difference between religion and spirituality. Religion, you get told what to do. Spirituality, you feel it yourself.
Yes.
And honestly, my experience, I was brought up a witness. I was born into it. So my experience from being around witnesses, they aren't nice people a lot of the time. Yes, I know some are. I definitely agree. But I've met them that they are just nasty to each other. And they talk behind each other's backs and stuff. And when you call them on it or something, then they try and twist it and blame you.
It's because they're stifled, because they're not allowed to express how they truly feel.
Exactly. But then they cause more damage. So, and I've learned that spiritual people that just accept who they are and trying to be the best person they can be are much more kinder and loving and compassionate. The witnesses aren't compassionate. They're only compassionate if it's one of them and if they like them. If they don't like you or agree with you, oh, well, I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you. I had to do this and this and this and this and this. Okay. But you there for them when they need you. And that is what I've learned. And that was one of the reasons I left. It saddened me.
It also very much depends on how they support you. Very much depends on your sex, whether you're male or female. Because the witnesses are very much a patriarchal religion, very much so. This was the pinnacle point for me when I finally understood I am no longer going to be in this religion. What happened? I mean, I was very young. I was only 14 years old, but even then I knew. And what had happened was everything had come out about my abuse. My mum had found out that my stepfather had been abusing us. And with that, the church obviously got involved. And he had gotten baptized when I was about 12. And he stopped the abuse around the age of 12. And I think this is because I was developing. I was no longer a child. And, you know.
You remember more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm talking more. And I was fighting back more as well. I was talking back more. I was resisting more. Yeah. But the point being, he was baptized around that time into the witnesses. And when everything came out, this is the thing that shifted me. The witnesses got involved, and my mother, obviously distraught at what she had just found out, she turned back to smoking weed again, just as a coping mechanism.
Well, it is healing.
Say again?
It is healing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely got medicinal. I mean, she doesn't do it anymore, but still, you know, at the time, that's how she was coping with it. You're just learning that your life's falling apart, your husband's been abusing your children. What do you do? And the witnesses although she disassociated herself, she would have been, they told her she would have been disfellowshipped for smoking the weed to deal with this. But yet my stepfather was welcomed back into the fold on the basis of, well, he stopped abusing you after he was baptized, you know.
So happened before?
Oh, he was cleansed.
Jehovah forgave you, so now you just don't worry about this because Jehovah forgave you now.
That's it. You were cleansed. You were cleansed. It doesn't matter anymore. You didn't do it. But this is very much that. I mean, I think if the roles had been reversed and it was my stepfather that had been smoking to cope with what my mother had done abuse-wise, it would definitely be the other way around. He would have, you know, still been kept in the fold for something like that, and she would most certainly have been.
If they kept him in the fold for this, yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. Because, I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't have done it, so I stopped. And let's just forget about the last, however long your mom was with us, what, 7 years or 8 years, whatever, and maybe longer. Let's just forget about all that. And then we focus on what the future holds. How do they deal with these people, these sick people?
Yeah.
Right. How do they deal with them? Because you can't just fob it off and go, oh, now because we know. Now now you have to stop, and this is going to be it. How do they know what they are doing, how far they've gone? Knowing what we know now, there could be a whole business running from that. They don't know. They're not going to just stop.
Yeah, there've been so many cases, though. I mean, you and I have both. We've shared documentaries on the whole witness thing, and the sexual abuse in particular is extremely rife in the religion, the same as it is in Catholicism. You know, it's very rife. I think they use the religion to hide behind this facade of being prim and proper and dedicated to God, and it's an easy facade to hide behind.
Oh, definitely, because it's very closed, isn't it? Very, very tight. So the elders, when they have the meeting, they can't talk to you about what goes on in there. It's private.
Yeah.
No one can go there. No one knows anything. No one talks about anything. Everyone's speculating about what everyone feels there's something going on, and they do sort of talk about something, but they never have the real information. They only one-sided, because I remember them doing talks when someone got disfellowshipped.
Yeah.
In the talk, they used to say pretty much what they did. Obviously not details, but fornicating or whatever. But they stopped that. They stopped it later years.
Because nobody's allowed to know.
That happened, and fair enough, everyone doesn't need to know everyone's business. That's fine. But the problem with that is, how do you protect your kids if they are doing this to a paedophile? That's different. The whole, fair enough, affairs, whatever, that happens everywhere, every day, or it's been happening from the beginning of time, right?
Yeah.
But we are living in a time now where pedophilia is illegal. So they have still covered up, even though they knew it was illegal and they knew they had to go to the police. But their reasoning is always, we can't damage the organization. We can't damage them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's not about the organization, it's about protecting the pedophiles within the organization. Because
that whatever reasoning they want to use, right, is irrelevant, because it's against the law. And when someone, even if it's a suspicion that someone could have done it, they have to contact the police to investigate. They never do that, because they go, oh, we'll deal with it. Internally, we'll deal with this. So what, are they investigators? Have they learned how to do all these things? No, they haven't. It's just people. And I'm not saying people aren't capable of doing it, and not at all, because I've met some really lovely elders in my life, right? That is like, they did it from their heart. But a lot of them have left.
Because they realize.
Why? Because they can see through the whole thing. They are covering up pedophiles by saying, we will deal with it internally because we don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name. And that was said to me a lot. Do not bring reproach on Jehovah's name. Whatever you do, don't do that. So I get what you say about that it damaged you in your life later, even though you weren't in it for so long, it still damaged you, because it's the fear of putting reproach on Jehovah's name. And this is why they don't get sued and stuff, because people are too scared. What if it is right? And then, oh, I'm sinning against the Holy Spirit, and then they can't do it. So they never let go of the fear completely.
No.
You can't just let go of it. You have to realize it. You have to experience your spiritual self, your authentic self, to come back to what is really happening here. Because in my instance, for example, I started seeing spirit when I was 4.
Yeah.
And I remember I was born a witness. So that was an issue for them. It was an issue for them because it was demons, and that was that, which terrified me, right? But the fact that I saw them seeing colors around people, feeling people's pain and emotion and knowing things, whatever, that didn't go away all the time that I was there.
Yeah. You see what you see and you can't deny it. Absolutely.
And this is why I go with this, because for us to be able to help people like us that have abilities, which I believe everyone does to degrees, some people are just more developed. But for people that struggle to let go of the fear of disappointing Jehovah, to actually realize they're not disappointing Jehovah. Jehovah is a character that the witnesses use to maneuver their business, because at the end of the day, it's all about business. Okay? Control as well.
Yeah.
So my question is, how did you come out of it? How did you heal from that experience? How did you heal from the fear?
It was quite surreal. It probably started off a bit shaky, probably maybe a bit down the wrong route, but there's that element of rebellion. When I was about 17, we had an experience where we'd moved in with somebody who was not very kosher, and we were warned left, right, and center, and every ounce of warning that we had come from a spiritual means. Okay, so I had just met my mentor at the time, and she was teaching me Wicca and tarot. So I'd been left the witnesses probably 2 or 3 years. My mom was already opening up her spiritual side, which was such a fantastic help, her leading the way, guiding the way. Like I said, she'd always had this thing within her. And I'd met my mentor at the time. She was just tutoring me in Wicca, tarot, all that kind of thing. So I was expanding and growing my connection, perhaps in the wrong way or a different way. But again, there was a lot of rebellion there. And through this, I mean, we had things like I was channeled a couple of times where I could physically feel things happening in my body, and they were pointing me out to things that we needed to be aware of about this person. They were showing us through the channeling physical things that we needed to look at. They were telling us through the cards, through the intuition, exactly where to look, in physical places, which we did. We had a friend of ours had an angel apparition at the foot of her bed, and this angel gave her some specific details about where to look within our home for what we were looking for, which we did. There was also it was exact, and it was there exactly what we were looking for. We also had a spirit who was in the home, and he started communicating with me almost immediately when I moved in, and he was really, really, really trying to tell me something, and he didn't stop until we discovered what it is that we were supposed to discover, and then he could rest. So it was very, very intense. But with discovering all this, I suddenly realized that, do you know what? By dropping the fear, by dropping all the restriction, look at what can be achieved. Look, these things I've been stifling since childhood. I mean, like I say, similar to you, my very first experience was about 10 years old, where I found myself, it started off in my bedroom. I kept seeing the face of this woman who lived up the road. And, in Africa, where we grew up, witchcraft and witch doctor, it's rife, it's normal, and this woman was a dark witch, or she had a reputation for being a dark witch dabbling with dark magic. Again, I was 10, so I didn't really understand very much of it. But her face kept appearing on my wall this night, and I tossing and turning, because obviously in the religion you're taught to believe these kind of things don't exist and they're not real. Just ignore them. So, which is what I tried to do.
All they're real, and they're incredibly dangerous and evil and powerful and all of that stuff.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it. So I tried to ignore this. And I drifted off to sleep this night, and it was absolutely horrifying, Adele, horrifying. I can remember feeling myself floating off my bed, levitating off my bed, and I knew there was no bed under me. I could feel it. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do anything. I was literally, it was paralysis, but there was no bed under me. I was floating. And I did the only thing I knew to do. And I remember my mother would always say to me, if you're ever scared, just say, in Jehovah's name, go away. And I kept saying that over and over and over again in my head. And eventually, with being able to let out a scream, I felt myself thud back onto my bed again. So I was definitely up there. And with that, do you remember those old alarm clock radio things? Yeah. That just blasted through. With radio came on. This must have been about 3 o'clock in the morning, and that blasted through. And my mum came running through to my bedroom. And before she had time to switch it off, it just switched itself off. So there was that experience. I've lost track.
That must have been really intense.
It was extremely intense.
Wow.
Extremely intense. But you know, that was my very first experience at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And coming back to when I was 17 and how this helped me, realizing that I no longer had any restriction on what I was and wasn't allowed to feel and experience. The experiences just flowed, and I could encourage them, and I could speak to my mother about them, and she could help me with them. And there were other people to help with, and we had tarot cards, and we had everything, all these things that we could draw on to try and make sense of these experiences. I was very much aware of an entity, an astral entity. It was a real person who had learned how to astral, and they were keeping an eye on us. Now, they were connected to this person that was not very kosher at all, who was also dabbling in very, very dark magic. And this astral entity used to come into the house, and I was very aware of it flying around. I could see the physical shape of it. We even caught something on camera once, on a photograph once, that I still to this day cannot make sense of, but it looks very much like this entity that was flying around the house. And we would always know when this entity was there, because when I was aware of it and when we'd see it, whatever the goings on had been in the house that day would come back to us from this person who wasn't there at the time, and he could relay back to us exactly what had happened in the house that day. So we knew this was all happening. But yes, that kind of freed me a little bit, just getting in touch with that little bit of personal power and seeing what I could do with magic at the time. I got, like I say, I was into witchcraft. I was doing spells. I was manifesting pretty much, which is now what we understand. What people see as witchcraft and magic is basically just manifestation. It's focused intent and bringing it in. It's natural. Exactly.
It's natural. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very natural. You don't need the restriction of anything, any religion, any.
You can't stop it. It comes naturally.
Absolutely.
You can't stop it. It is a coping mechanism, like I said, that helps you survive. Yeah. So if we go through those experiences, well, later on, people will realize, or you realize then yourself, there's a spiritual energy beyond what we know. Yes. And then later you realize that there's this energy and something else to protect you from that energy.
Yes.
But
yes.
In the beginning, the natural instincts happen. You cannot stop it, control it. It's not like you go, oh, I need to ask for something. You don't ask for anything. It's just there.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
Yeah, so you don't need that restriction. And that was brilliant to see what you can do with exactly that, your inside own personal power. This was wonderful. And that just broke down everything for me. And when I started reading tarot for people, because that was around about that time where I started dabbling and reading, that is when it clicked for me, because I suddenly realized the feeling I got from helping and healing people. I mean, this started, I went into hospital a little bit when I was about 15. I wound up in hospital. I had a nervous breakdown. I had been raped after the move. and I went into a bit of a breakdown, and I wound up in hospital for 3 months. And
I'm sorry.
this was the best thing ever, because I realized being in hospital, the doctors didn't help me. They didn't do anything to help me. What helped me was going around the patients and speaking to them and helping the patients. I found this natural, intuitive thing inside of me, and I was like, wow, that makes me buzz. I love that. And that's the same kind of feeling I got when I started reading tarot for people, seeing how I could help people and the difference that it made to them and guide them. And I knew that's what I needed to do. It's almost like your purpose or your calling. But sometimes we take all these different paths to get onto our purpose path, don't we?
But isn't it interesting that you used the bad thing that happened, the dark thing, the difficult thing, you used that to heal? So you've used that the negative, and it made you aware. So it taught you something about your own power. So again, it's a survival thing, right? For you to be able to become stronger, so this don't happen again, I need to start, and you naturally did it.
Yeah, but it's a choice as well for everybody. I mean, later on, I had made the choice, because we all of us get stuck into a little bit of victim mode when we have these things happen to us. You know, oh, I can't do that because that happened to me, or oh, I am this way because I was abused. You know, that was very.
Yeah, I do.
That's it. And then when I was about 24 and I did my forgiveness, I understood, you know, we all have a choice, every single one of us. You're either going to be a victim or you're going to be a survivor. And that choice is yours. Am I going to let this experience continue to impact my life forever and ever and ever and ever? Or am I going to say, up your bum, I forgive you, goodbye, I'm now going to be a survivor of it? And that's the choice that everybody has the right to make. Yeah.
And that's unfortunately what a lot of people don't know how to do, because they want to get to that point, but they don't know how to get there. And it is, you have to work on yourself, especially if you've been through something like the witnesses, because they literally reprogram you. They program you in the way that they want you to be.
Yes.
And you have to deprogram, I think, well, I don't know, but you have to take the program out of of your existence. You can't remove it completely like it never existed. It's part of your history. But you have to get to a point where you don't allow it to influence your future anymore, because that is where the problem lies. Exactly. We have to heal so that we can deal better with things in the future. Things happen to us here to teach us to deal better in the future. And I'm sure, I'm really sorry that you had to go through that experience. It must have been awful to go through a rape experience. But I'm sure when you did the healing, you are now helping rape victims or people that has been through something similar.
Exactly that. Even now, during my readings, it's very, very, very common for me to attract the clients that have experienced sexual abuse, rape, that kind of thing, because there's that empathy level there.
And the thing is, what people need to understand, it's not spirit doing that to you so that you can work for them. It doesn't work that way, because people have said this to me before. It's part of our experience and lessons to learn when we live in the past life, right? We've maybe done something. We could have raped someone in the past life and we had to go through the same experience. We don't really know. We'll talk about that now that you know. But the thing is, you have to then use that in your future. And all the information, good and bad, that happened to you, you have to work through that. And then you will become stronger for your future, so you can cope better. You know how to deal with things better. If you never learn from your mistakes and your good stuff, how are you going to be successful in your future? So the witnesses never teach that. Because they teach you there's one way and we're waiting for this. Everything else in between is irrelevant. It's not relevant because we didn't get proper educations and all the stuff that comes with that, because that's how they program you to be. It's not just stuff in the middle.
No.
That's our life. They keep people on a little string. You know what I'm saying? So people just keep doing what they're saying, but in the meantime, they're wasting their lives away following something that has been proven to be false.
That's it. And you've got to follow your own truth. You have to do it.
The fact that, sorry, I just want to say, the fact that you've experienced those things have made you the person you are today. All of it.
Yeah.
Right? Programming, everything, the abuse, the rape, everything that you've gone through. Let's not just say just abuse, it's rape after all, isn't it? All of it.
I wouldn't change it, Adele. I would
No,
never, ever change it.
no.
You know, this is the
But
pinnacle point of everything. Understanding exactly what you've said. It, like I said, when I was 24, and understanding how it works, reincarnation, past lives, all the rest of it, understanding how it truly works is the thing that healed me. Because this, you know, saying it out loud to some people before, it sounded really controversial. And I thought, oh, I can't say that. People are going to judge me for that. But actually, this is how it is. And this is my experience. Understanding that on a soul level, I mean, as you know, we form our soul groups with people, right? And this is while we're on the other side, form our soul groups. And we all come here to share and help each other learn experiences. And when
go there, before you go there, I want you to tell people, because I don't think a lot of people might know about it, especially people that like ex-witnesses or that's been in religion and stuff. They're still fearful of it a bit. So can you just explain to us the mechanics, before you get into that, just the mechanics behind what you do, how it works, and then how it obviously helped you?
Okay. So past life therapy, the mechanics of it, basically what we do is we take people through hypnosis or through regression, and we achieve that through hypnosis. Okay, so hypnosis is a little bit different to hypnotism. It's a lot different to hypnotism. As you know, you've experienced it. So hypnotism, you have the ability to be controlled, cluck like a chicken, bark like a dog.
So that's a deeper state.
Exactly, it's a deeper state. Whereas hypnosis is just very much a deep, concentrated relaxation technique. Okay. And the point of this is the fact that you have control throughout everything. We want you to be able to remember the experience. We want you to be able to relay this experience back to us so that we can communicate and help you heal any issues that are stuck. So with the regression, it's based on the theory of reincarnation. Obviously, a lot of religions don't entertain the reincarnation theory.
No, of course they don't. They don't want you to remember. They're not going to tell you about it.
But this is what the whole thing is based on, reincarnation. And I think just through my experiences, speaking to my clients, case studies I've read, things I've seen with my own eyes, my own regressions, I have 1000% certain that this is what's happening. So we get in touch with your subconscious, and basically what happens is we have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. So the left side of the brain is the side that deals with your logic and your reason, and it can make up lies and stories and rationalize things. Whereas the right side of the brain is just like this big memory storage bank. It can't rationalize, it can't reason, it can't make up lies. So we put the left side to sleep and we access the right brain. So it's like accessing the memory bank on a computer. So everything we see, we know is going to be a true reflection of what happened. Now, when we have each and every single life, like I said to you before, we come with soul groups. And what happens is we collaborate on the other side, and we say, right, I'm going to come back as your mother, sister, brother, wife, whatever, and I'm going to help you to learn this particular lesson. And in doing so, you're going to help me to learn this particular lesson. And so this is how it perpetuates over and over. We come back lifetime after lifetime learning lessons and helping each other to learn lessons. But we also create karma along the way. Okay, so
well, that's what teaches us, doesn't it? Because exactly. Like I said before, we have to feel something's wrong. You can't stop doing something unless you feel it's wrong. And when you felt it, that's when you learn. So that to me is what karma is. We have to
absolutely. I'm going to throw that little example in here because it's very, very, very relevant to what you've just said. You have to feel it to know that it's wrong. And that little example I was talking about myself and my stepfather, when I understood that we had collaborated together to come here, I agreed. We collaborate. I will be your victim and experience this abuse, because the things I've come to learn, I can only learn through the experience of abuse.
Exactly.
And it's the same with him. Absolutely.
Embrace your experience. And it's not about, I'm okay with being raped or abused or anything. It's about accepting this is what happened.
What did I learn?
Absolutely don't agree with it. I don't think it's okay. But what am I going to do? Sit in a little corner, be a victim, cry my whole life, become a drug addict, an alcoholic, or whatever, because I can't cope? Or you take it, you look at it, you learn from it, you forgive, knowing that they will get their karma. They will be dealt with. It's not my job to punish them. So my job is to survive. And
but
like you said, you become a survivor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But this is the controversial bit. When you say the thing that healed me is not so much looking and thinking they will get their day, because they will, because everybody needs to take responsibility for their own actions and their own choices. Yeah. But me understanding that he could only learn what he was supposed to learn by being an abuser.
Yeah.
That
changed something in a way as well.
That changed something in my head. And I understood that, yes, it's bad and he shouldn't have done that. And he needs to take responsibility for his actions, which he will.
Yeah.
But like you say, having experienced that experience already of being the abuser, that will then eliminate the need for him to ever be an abuser again. If he learns the lesson.
If he doesn't like it.
Exactly.
But that still has to be there, because sometimes maybe they have to be punished, or maybe they have to have a life of abuse to understand it.
Absolutely. That's the karma we're talking about, the balancing of karma. And you could be very right in saying perhaps I was his abuser in a past life, and therefore the experience needed to be balanced out. Absolutely. So you're correct. I mean, this is the crux of it all. It's learning lessons, balancing karma. That's what past life therapy is all about. But along the way, what happens is when we have these traumas in our learning circle, when we have these traumas, sometimes we don't deal with these traumas and then we suppress them. So those suppressed traumas, unfortunately, will follow us through every single lifetime for us to deal with, and they'll manifest in different ways. So say, for example, you were beaten up in 1918, you were down a dark alley and you were beaten up, you know, you never dealt with that trauma. It broke you. And now, years later, having not dealt with that trauma, lifetimes later, having not dealt with that trauma, it's now developed into something like a fear of the dark, severe self-confidence issues, you know, agoraphobia even.
Fear on lots of stuff.
Absolutely. And you can't pinpoint why am I like this? There's no reason in this lifetime why that I should be like this. It's because we need to go back and deal with the issue then, deal with the emotions and the trauma that we should have dealt with back then. And once we release that, it releases all the symptoms.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I just want to tell you, when I had that session with you, obviously I'm a bit private, but my partner and I had a few difficulties. And when we did the regression, because obviously, you know, he did it and I did it, but I just want to, you know, tell people what it was like working with you. I was in a lifetime with him because, okay, let me start this way. When we had issues going through our relationship, there was always a little bit of a power struggle. Like, he would say something to me, and often I will it almost feels like he's telling me what to do, like he's trying to control me. And there was a point where I was fighting it a lot. So we got to a point where we were clashing a lot, and he was like, but I don't do what you feel I'm doing. And I'm like, but you make me feel like this. Anyway, when we did the regression with you, it came out why, which was amazing, because when we did the regression, I was a geisha.
Yeah.
And he was my master.
Mm-hmm.
That was where the issue was, because I was in love with him in that lifetime, but I was just one of his geishas, right? So there was this feeling of I needed his approval, So in this life, obviously, that must have pissed me off, because later on, like in this lifetime, I'm rejecting everything. He's trying to help it. No, I'm not doing it. And it's like, why? And I couldn't work out why, because it's not my nature. I'm not like that. I'm quite, yeah, I can be hard-headed, and I can be, but usually when I am, it's because of something that I know, I've seen, I've experienced, whatever. So I will not let that go, because I know this for me for a fact. You might say different. So it was fascinating, because that healed me. That healed something in our relationship, because after that, knowing that I was a geisha, and I just say, I've always had issues with my feet. Shoes hurt me. I've got a hard bridge. Now I know why I have issues with my feet. And since that happened as well, my feet is actually better.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So
this is
it shows working with you, it healed me on a physical level. It healed me on an emotional level. It healed my relationship with my partner, because now I understand he's just wanting to protect and help me. He's not controlling. And he isn't. He's not. He's not a controlling type. I can do what I want. And he doesn't blink an eyelid. I've been with exes before that was jealous. I know I'm controlling, and he's not like that. So, but it healed me. It healed the feeling I felt, the resistance, and he couldn't understand. He's like, oh, why don't you try this and that? You know, talking about business, whatever. And I'll be like, I don't need you to tell me. And I could not get it until I did regression. And it was amazing. And it happened in 2 or 3 days. It healed that issue, and it now it's not an issue at all. It doesn't happen anymore.
That's it. We just go and we the symptoms dissipate in this life when we release the trauma. Yeah.
So thank you so much, because our relationship is better from working through that issue. And obviously, as you know, we work through other lifetimes. We don't have time to discuss every one. It's fascinating. If people want to know one day, we can tell them if they really want to. It's fascinating working through it. I loved it, because it made me heal. Just the knowing, just releasing that in that lifetime there, healed how I feel today. And it made me a stronger person, and I have less fears. But it also made me realize, when I was born into the witnesses, obviously, it was very easy for me to not see that bit. Because of, like you were saying, the man is the head of the house, and that's that. So you don't question it. So it's just going back into that servant mode in a way.
Yes. Your karma repeats, and this is what I'm saying. Don't learn your lesson. It keeps being presented to you over and over again in every single lifetime until you learn. Unfortunately, the lessons just get harder and harder, because it's trying to teach you the same thing, until you eventually go, hey, learn this lesson, which is what happened with you. If you see the correlation between the geisha lifetime and then coming in again, like you say, into a very oppressive, patriarchal religion like the Jehovah's Witnesses, that's the same key lesson there, but it's just repeating in a more intense way for you to learn.
But that has always been an issue. And the thing is, I always just accepted that men are the head or the lead, right? For a long time, I suffered because I was treated badly by men, because I allowed it, because that's what it is. So I was abused, and I couldn't resist, because I thought, well, this is how it is, because I'm a child as well. And then when you go through your relationship, and abusive relationship, you come to realize what now, later in your life, you come to realize that you've allowed that because you were conditioned to think, or a past life conditioned you to think, that it's okay.
Yes.
It does sort of keep you there in a way, but it uses that exact problem you to look at. So it's almost like it's going, hey, look at this, like those big phone fingers, look at that, look at that, look at that.
And we're going to turn up the volume.
Thing over and over until they learn, what is this really? Why have I got this thing? And then you can work through it.
Absolutely. That's it. They just turn up the volume and turn up the volume until you learn it. And you did. You learned, which was so brilliant. And this is the thing, Adele. This is the thing, because you've healed me on so many levels as well. And this is, I think, the crux of what we are all doing here. You, myself, Sophie, all the other light warriors, everybody. if we can bring it together and use our own individual skills to
Yes.
help each other, this is what it's all about. Because as we help and heal ourselves, it automatically resonates out into the collective and heals the collective, raises the vibration.
Do you know they've actually been able to prove that scientifically?
Yes.
Heart, everyone's heart chakras, and I'm sure we can find the articles and stuff, but they've actually proven it by studies. And what was interesting, the study they did happened at 9/11.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
That's true. They measured it. Why they did, who knows? Maybe they measured loads of stuff before, like the resonance, right? It's a Schumann resonance.
Resonance,
They have actually realized that when it happened and the news was released, how the energy was affected by that event.
Yes, absolutely.
And they proved from that it attacked the heart chakra.
Yeah.
I still want to know how they had that study, but anyway, because you have to wonder why did they have that study? And then they go, oh, we don't study those things anymore. No, they went underground.
Yeah.
And they're using it against us. So
Absolutely.
we can understand that.
They want to know what lowers our vibration and what raises our vibration and how they can get it right.
Interesting. We are interesting creatures and we have abilities and they know it. We are antennas. Yeah. So there's also the Mokbar energy. So when you go into alignment, remote viewers can see you. And for anyone that doesn't know what a remote viewer is, go and research that. And let me just tell you, the government use them. I have watched programs of government officials, remote viewers that teach people remote viewing on like a TV program. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, hang on, how do they still say psychics and all this is nonsense when they've studied us? They've studied us, they used us. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? So clearly, we know that the spirit world exists now. Also, I've seen doctors that have tested people, like done studies and stuff, that can prove now that reincarnation of past lives exist. For a fact. They can prove it. Now, why is this not mainstream? Why didn't people go, oh my God, we've just had a massive breakthrough?
Yeah.
Oh,
they want the information.
Right. No, but that's the thing. Because they know it heals.
Yes.
And that is the problem. They know it heals.
Absolutely. If we're healing, we're growing, we're raising vibration, we're moving out of fear, and the whole world around us heals, which is exactly the point. This is what we want to do.
And this is why I feel people are now in a position or in a place where they want to heal.
Yeah.
And it's time for them to visit people like you because it would help them deal with it in no time. Once the realization is made of what it is, it goes away.
Absolutely.
I'm taking proof of it. And trust me, it's not the first time. Yeah, I've done regression with you before and it healed me then as well. And it made me a lot stronger. So every time we do these things, it heals a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And I would recommend anyone to have a session. And yeah, you know, experience for yourself because that's the only way. We can talk about this till you're blue in the face.
Till you've experienced it, you don't know.
If you experience it for yourself, you know, you can go, oh, I don't believe it, whatever. Well, you can't say that unless you tried it. You can't.
And I think the call is so strong now, exactly like you say, because we are shifting consciousness, this huge evolutionary leap.
People are waking up.
People are waking up and they're feeling this need. And, you know, I use this analogy all the time, Adele. I've probably said it to you 100 times, but it is exactly like moving into a new relationship. You can't take baggage from the past into a new relationship. It won't work. New earth, we can't take all our baggage from all our past lives and everything into creating a new earth. It's not going to work. People are feeling yearning for healing.
Yeah. And also what I've noticed was that some people struggle to do this. They struggle to go into what did you say, hypnosis? Or it's not them.
Elaborate on that just a little bit. So what we have, and I wanted to touch on this as well with other people. If I can elaborate just a little bit, we have something called a subconscious resistance that sometimes presents. So what subconscious resistance is when going into hypnosis, or we're trying to take somebody into hypnosis, and their subconscious knows or understands that we are now going to go and revisit a trauma that is sometimes incredibly traumatic to look at and very difficult to look at. So there's, of course, this apprehension and this tension of not wanting to go and re-look at that trauma or feel those feelings associated with it anymore. So we have something called subconscious resistance, where the client will struggle a little bit to go into hypnosis and, oh, can I just nip for a wee? Oh, I need a drink. And, oh, I've got an itchy nose. Can I just adjust? And there's all these things that
become fidgety.
Exactly, because they're preempting the massive emotional thing that they're going to have to go and look at now. This trauma, they're preempting it, and they don't really want to look at it. So when this is rare, but when we do have it, the thing that blew my mind when we did a session with your partner, oh my gosh, I had only ever read about this in theory. I had never practically done it before. But this, people don't realize, is something that's very possible. When you have a very talented psychic like yourself, you have to be able to have a good link with the client. We can work through a psychic such as yourself. So if I could just explain to everybody what had happened.
I don't think we knew this exactly. I didn't know that this is possible.
I knew it in theory. I just never tried it practically. You know, I knew it in theory. But it was fascinating to watch, because your partner was experiencing some of the subconscious resistance. So what we did was, you went under, I put you under on his behalf, and you created the psychic link with him, and I was able to work with you, and you could relay the memories you were getting from him, and we could then implement the healing. And tell us what happened from your partner's side after that. How did that transpire, doing the healing through you?
Well, the weird thing, I think it connected us.
Brilliant.
I understood him better. My compassion grew for him. And I think his compassion grew for himself, you know, because he's very hard on himself.
Yeah.
He's very, very hard on himself. To him, everything, well, I'd say everything. With other people, he's patient, well, more patient than himself.
Yeah.
And it definitely softened him about how he looks at himself and how harsh he is. He's not saying things that he used to say anymore. So definitely it worked. It definitely worked. But also, it connected me with him because I understood him better, and I could feel compassion. And the weird thing was, what he said was that he felt the emotion, because obviously I was under, he was watching it, but he felt the emotion as I was talking about it.
Yeah.
He was crying, he was emotional and stuff. So he was feeling what I was going through, although he couldn't do it himself. But knowing that about himself, he's different.
Yeah, because the healing still took
more
place.
That's still something. I wouldn't say it's changed him like he's a different person. Well, a lot have changed him. I would say he is a different person, but not just that. That was part of changing how he is and how he sees things and how he talks. And he's calmer. Definitely, he was always very fidgety and restless legs, you know, like that. Can't sit still for too long. Can't concentrate for too long. He's much, much more calmer since that. I can see it. His legs twitchy. He doesn't talk about his restless legs as much. So yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, for anybody who's struggling, at least they know now this is an option. You know, to come to somebody like you and work through, or let you work on their behalf during a regression. This is absolutely possible. So that was mind blowing. Something I'd like to experiment with a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure you. It's fascinating. I found it absolutely fascinating. The whole way we've done stuff. You know, how we work through all that, because it's lovely to see that there is a skill that someone can have to heal something so quickly, so simply, without any drugs, any therapists over and over. You know, like years. Some people go to therapy for years and they still have the same issue. It's nice to know that you can do all these things like this. It is fascinating.
Root cause. The basics of it is just getting to the root cause. And sometimes the cause is not in this lifetime, and that's why it heals so quickly.
Yeah. So it's fascinating to hear your story about how you connected to the spiritual, and coming through the witnesses, how you've healed from that. Do you feel that you still got a few bits left that you need to work through with that?
Absolutely. There's always going to be healing that needs doing. I'm seeing
And
it.
I'm talking specifically about the witness. The witness.
Yes. I see as life develops, so issues that you didn't realize were still there develop, and they popped up their heads and they go, oh, I've got to look at that because that is a witness link. I'm seeing now between myself and my daughter, and the dynamic, my parenting dynamic between myself and my daughter, and how I parent. It's all very much influenced by the restriction and the rigidity that I grew up in. And, I find myself having to really look at my parenting style and try and be a little bit more relaxed. But also there's that, no parenting comes with a manual. Nobody knows how to do it right. We're all just doing it the way that we feel we need to. But I'm definitely recognizing that sometimes in my parenting behavior, I'm falling back to that rigid, strict witness upbringing. So that's something I'm constantly working on, constantly trying to figure out and balance out. And I have no doubt that as I progress later on in life, there'll be other things that I don't know are even an issue right now that might crop up and go, oh, hang on a minute. That's still relating to my witness upbringing. But it's
good that you can put it together, that you can look at it and think, a lot of people can't do that. So they don't realize they're still in the witness mentality, even though they're it, and they might hate them, but they've got such a firm belief now that there's either nothing or they still have that same programming or pattern. And the thing is, for us to evolve and evolve, literally evolve, we have to look at ourselves and see how we hold ourselves back and open our mind and see what is possible. Unless you taste something, you won't know.
Yeah.
So I just want people to give it a chance and try something different. What have you got to lose,
Absolutely.
What have you got to lose? Besides actually learning a huge thing, and it opens the world to it takes depression away. Because it gives you hope. You know that what is happening now is not as traumatic as we think. This is a lifetime. This is one lifetime. So look at the bigger picture, Everything is being revealed as it is. And if we are open and we are willing to just learn and have a mind of wonder, we can do amazing things and heal. Do this thing that we want to do without fears and without something holding us back.
Absolutely. It's an opportunity, and we've got to see it as such. It's that same thing we were talking about. Am I going to be a victim or am I going to be a survivor?
Exactly.
What are we doing?
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the point of all of this. We are here to work on ourselves, to evolve, to learn about ourselves. And this is why we have the bad experiences and the bad things happen, or like the witness upbringing, and that it's almost like we get snapped a little bit, but we don't break.
Yeah.
It's like those glow sticks. You snap it, doesn't break, but you have to snap it. You have to snap it for it to become whole again, because it's part of our growth as a spirit or as a soul. I mean, what's in us here is a spirit, and what's out there is a soul. Your soul has all the experiences, but your spirit here now is experiencing this life.
Yeah.
And we can tap into the spiritual through regression and stuff, and understand ourselves, our soul better on a different level. And that gives us insight, and it helps us to mature and just accept. And life becomes colorful.
Yes.
It becomes colorful. As a witness, it's very black and white, literally black and white and gray. Yeah. When you become spiritual, and not as a religion, as just accepting who you are and be your authentic self, it becomes colorful. It becomes bright and beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you bond more with people because you start looking at other people differently, more accepting, more like, oh, I wonder what they had experienced. You look at it differently. You become softer. You become more compassionate, empathic.
Yeah.
Comfortable in your own skin.
That's it.
You do writing work. You do amazing work, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you. You do such amazing work. You've helped me so much.
I'm
So
glad.
neutral.
But yeah, the thing is, we are here to help people, you know, and this is why we do these things. So thank you. I enjoyed that, and I'm sure we'll talk again. There's loads of stuff we can go into. But again, if anyone wants to ask more details or stuff, feel free.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
And I'll speak to you soon, and have a great week. And I'll speak to you next week sometime.
Yes, I will. Big lovely.
Cool. Speak to you later. Bye.